Our speaker for tonight's ceremony is no stranger to North Carolina's community colleges and is a good friend to us here at Isothermal. Nation Hahn is the Director of Growth for Education NC. In that role, he leads a staff of excellent reporters who every day tell the important stories of the state's 58 community colleges and its other post-secondary institutions. He writes a weekly newsletter called Awake 58 and handles its Twitter account too, always championing the importance and value of the role of community colleges in workforce and economic development. Nation serves his community of Raleigh as a board member of the Jamie Kirk Hahn Fund, named after his late wife, and the North Carolina Early Childhood Foundation. He has also served the Hope Center at Pullen and the Raleigh-Wake Partnership to End and Prevent Homelessness. He serves his industry through participation in the year-long 2019 Media Transformation Challenge at the Shorenstein Center at Harvard, coaches other outlets through the American Press Institute Table Stakes program, served as an Aspen Ideas Fest Fellow, and as a member of the Z. Smith Reynolds Community Leadership Council. He loves his dog, Teddy, and he was especially proud to be named Southerner of the Year by Southern Living magazine. Please join me in welcoming Nation Hahn.
Good afternoon, good evening. If I'd have known she was going to read the whole thing, I wouldn't have written such a long bio. Your president has a good sense of humor, so when she first asked me to speak, I assumed she was kidding. Then I said I would be glad to, and in fact honored. And I was reminded the best advice I received was that no one, and looking around I don't see my parents, no one is here for me. Everyone's going to be wearing like church clothes and robes and ready to get on with it. So congratulations to you, and I'll try to be brief. The long hours, late nights, fitting your schoolwork in between jobs and family and life, all that work has now added up to being a graduate. For some of you, you may be the first in your family to graduate college. It was true for me. It was the culmination of my parents' and my grandparents' dreams, the hard work, their prayers that I'd actually stay out of trouble in high school. And tonight, you've done the same. I know it wasn't easy, particularly this year. So congratulations. I want to share 3 brief stories with you. The first, this is no surprise, we are on the campus of a community college. All of you are part of the millions of Americans every year who attend a 2-year community and technical college. Trivia question, how many community colleges do we have? 58 in the great state of North Carolina. Through my job with EdNC, I've been fortunate enough to travel to 45 of those 58. Dallas Herring, considered by many to be the father of the North Carolina community college system. And your president will tell you if you go anywhere to any community college, you'll hear this quote and hear his name mentioned. Famously said, the purpose of these institutions are to take people where they are and carry them as far as they can go. This powerful sense of purpose is alive and well today. Our 58 community colleges meet people where they are, and they give them a chance to pursue their dreams. During my travels across the state, often leaving my beloved dog in a boarding facility to his dismay, although occasionally he rides along, I've seen that community colleges are first-class institutions. I've seen a world-class photography program at Randolph Community College. I've ridden in the big rigs at Caldwell Community College, my hometown school, as they prepare student drivers for a great paying career that'll change their family's life. They even offered to let me drive, which I had to tell them that wasn't a good idea. I've heard of students who faced homelessness, attended an early college, and landed in the Ivy League. And tonight, I'm honored to be here with all of you. I don't have to tell you that you received a great education at Isothermal because you lived it. But I often have to remind those who haven't experienced community colleges recently that they are among the most important tools our country has to change lives. My friend Mike Krause, who helped lead higher education efforts in Tennessee, recently reminded us, we were in the room together, Margaret, that most people view college through the lens of an 18-year-old student transitioning from high school to a 4-year college, and then moving on from there. That's never been the only path, and it's even rare that that's the path today. And it's long past time that policies and perceptions shift. Many of you sitting in this crowd as graduates will change jobs multiple times. And community colleges are practically the only institutions of higher learning that can provide you with a credential in 8 or 16 weeks that can change your life, change the economic standing of your family, change your very future. I hope as you go forward, you'll recall with pride being a community college graduate, and you'll tell others, so the secret of the value of community colleges will no longer be a secret. The second story I want to tell you is focused on resilience. This comes as no surprise to you. You've made it through a school year dominated by COVID. I imagine when you first signed up for community college, you anticipated attending in-person classes with your fellow students, not staring at them through your laptop or phone as their dog or family member rambled around in the background. Making it through this year, not just the education part, but the living part, required resilience. Books will tell you that resilience is about bouncing back from challenges. Tonight, when you go home, if you have a dictionary on the shelf somewhere, you can pick it up, blow off the dust, and turn to the R's. The dictionary will say resilience is about toughness, a capacity to move through adversity. You can use whatever definition you like, but I encourage you to look to your left and your right. Each of you are a living, breathing example of resilience. You lived and worked and studied through challenges you may not have even acknowledged yet. One of the most important lessons in my own life has been the ability to know that hard times will come. Dark days will arrive, and people I love will face tough battles. But that somehow, against all odds, we'll survive. And on the other end of survival, you may well find a pretty good life. I was born to teenage parents who struggled through addiction. My grandmothers had to help raise me. My aunt and uncle had to adopt me. I went to 4 different schools across 2 counties by the time I was in 6th grade. I knew what it was to not always know when and where I would eat again. I saw the perils of addiction, lay awake during quiet nights broken up by the sounds of domestic violence, and saw things no kid ought to see. Once my aunt and uncle adopted me, I did well enough in school. Didn't cause too much trouble. Graduated high a bunch of kids, jobs we loved, and growing old together. And then 8 years ago in April, my wife died. I was devastated and I fell into a deep grief. For years, I did not know if I'd make it to the other end of that grief, and for years I wasn't sure I wanted to. But a few lessons saved me in the end. Understanding that none of this was permanent, even sadness. Finding purpose in my days. Surrounding myself with folks that I loved who loved me. And finally, needing room to fail, to fall short, and to learn from those mistakes. My hope for you is that you'll not face these types of challenges in your own life, but some of you probably already have. You've lost parents or siblings. You've been counted out. You've had adults who failed you, and we've all lived through this past year. My final piece of advice as I draw to a close is for you to have the courage to find your own way and to anchor some portion of your life in service. Life requires a certain amount of courage. We often think of courage as something we show in battle or something we show in the face of some great evil. I think of it a little differently. When I think of courage, I think of a poem by Marianne Radmacher who wrote, "Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the little voice at the end of the day that says, 'I'll try again tomorrow.'" I'll try again tomorrow. Those 4 words serve as a powerful call for all of us to remember. And living that reminder day in and day out is how you'll find your way. It's tempting as you graduate to believe success might look like moving away from home, finding a high-paying job, building a life away from everything you've ever known. And success can look like that for some. But my advice for you is to know that success can and does look like staying home, contributing to the good of your church and your community, contributing to Isothermal Community College. The reality is rural North Carolina needs people just like you. It needs smart, young, driven people who know that our rural communities can provide opportunities to live, to work, and to play, just the same as our cities and our suburbs. And whether you stay here or move to another rural community, it needs people like you to resolve to dig in and contribute and make a place a better place for all. Congratulations once again. You've made it through this COVID year. You can move forward knowing you survived. You can move forward without a mask. Might even be able to hug some people again. And you can move forward knowing that Isothermal Community College has equipped you to live a full life. Someone very dear to me reminded me of a quote by Anna Quidlin that I'll close with. Don't ever confuse the two, your life and your work. That's what I have to say. The second is only a part of the first. There are thousands of people out there with the same degree you have. When you get a job, there will be thousands of people doing the same thing that you do for a living. But you are the only person who has sole custody of your life, your particular life, your entire life. Not just your life at the desk, or your life on the bus, or in the car, or at the computer. Not just the life of your mind, but the life of your heart. Not just your bank account, but your soul. People don't talk about the soul very much anymore. It's much easier to write a resume than to craft a spirit. But a resume is cold comfort on a winter night, or when you're sad, or broke, or lonely, or when you've gotten back the chest x-ray and it doesn't look so good, or when the doctor writes prognosis poor. And so, 2021 graduates of Isothermal Community College, I wish for all of you that you'll find meaningful work. But mostly I wish for all of you to find meaningful lives. Lives full of purpose and love and service. I've learned in dark days and dark nights that your life and the people who you love and who love you, that'll save you in the end. Thank you.